Today I will be interviewing Abel Arroyo. Abel, can you please tell me your position and the company you work for?
I work for Leprino Foods, and I'm a instrument technician. It's more electrical in the electrical field.
All right, so can you describe for me your recruitment process when you joined the Leprino team?
When they hired me, I filled out an application. There was 500 people applying for 10 positions. I think what my strong point was that I finished my AA. I had my AA diploma, and that did help me out a lot.
All right, great. So you said you filled out an application. Did you have an interview with the HR department?
Yes, I did. As a matter of fact, I had 3 people interviewing. That was the supervisor in human resources. There was the 2 other department managers, and the the 3 of them, they gave me like 20 questions each, asking about the experience I had on food processing and about safety and what history I have on or what class I took on to get my AA diploma.
All right, great. And did you have a testing period where they would watch you working in the plant? Did you have a testing period?
Yes, it was a 90-day probation that they had certain rules uh, to be to comply with the work position I was doing. Uh, if I was machine operator, I was I had to keep up with the records for to fill out that position. I had to be early at work and just kind of following all the rules. And if I pass that 90 days without making big mistakes, I would pass probation and they would hire me.
Great. And then at the end of your testing or probation period, you signed a contract of employment, correct?
Yes. Actually, we did that right from the beginning. Uh, Before I started the first day, I already had that contract, and I was signing um, all the documents saying that I couldn't uh, sell any information, any recipes that they had like for cheese making or anything like that.
Correct. Great. And so now we're going to move on to appraisals. Has the HR department or any of your managers done an appraisal with you? And an appraisal is when the HR department assesses an employee's performance and effectiveness. Have they done that with you?
They done it a couple of times, not many times. It's not required per year. Um, that I remember last time, Leprino Foods, that they have their how do you call it, the brackets or their expectations. They're really high. They want 100% from every person, from every worker. And at that point, I got a 90 on the ranking, which they said it was one of the best ones. I always was trying to put them, or I still do, put my 100%. But yeah, they gave me all the points where I was doing or exceeding the expectations and the areas that I needed to work on. And as you know, my communications, I tried my best, but I need a little bit more English, practicing my language.
Right, correct. Great. And then last, we're going to end with training. Can you describe your training process? I know that you've gone through multiple positions in the company. So can you kind of tell me a little bit about training for those positions? If you did any internal training, external training, did they send you to any classes? Did they train you inside of the company? What was your experience?
Leprino Foods company, they have a really strong belief that on trying to make a person go up in a ladder in different positions. They always pushing to do better. First, they trained me as a machine operator. They trained me on all the positions in the department. And then after I learned all those positions, they asked me if I could become a foreman, a crew foreman, and I accepted that position. They gave me about 3 months period of training, really good training, person to person. It was in the company, in the department, with another supervisor, another foreman. After doing that position for about 13 years, I applied for the maintenance department for electrician. For that, I had to go to take some classes at Delta College on the electrical field. But then again, to become a mechanic, I had a full year training on different areas, but it was really good and deep training.
All right, great. Now I will be commenting on my interview with Abel Arroyo. And the first thing we talked about with Mr. Arroyo was his recruitment process. And I could tell that his process was pretty standard. He started off by submitting an application. He stated that there were about 500 other candidates for the position, and so what the HR department did was conduct a few interviews. And interviews are really the most common form of selection for a company. They allow a quick view of the candidate and allows the HR department to know any skills or abilities the candidates might have. Mr. Arroyo was one of the candidates who went on to an interview, and he said he sat down with a person from the HR department as well as 2 other department managers. They asked him about 20 questions ranging from his previous work experience to his process in obtaining his AA degree. And so Mr. Arroyo said there was one aspect of the interview that he felt a little bit nervous about, and that was his accent. English was not his primary language, and so he felt as if the interview kind of impeded the manager and the person from the HR department to truly see his qualities. He felt that his accent held him back a bit, and that is one of the problems with interviews, is that they're not always effective or reliable. But overall, Mr. Arroyo had a pretty good experience with his interview. He ended up receiving the position he had applied for. And so the first thing that he went through was his contract of employment. As Leprino Foods is a production plant of cheese and whey products, it is very important for the employees not to sell or give out any information or recipes. And so he specifically speaks about the disciplinary procedures the company had according to that. And then he also spoke about the testing period he had after they employed him. There was a 90-day trial period in which the HR department and the managers really just further evaluated his strengths and abilities and made sure that he was the right person to fit the position. And then we moved on to appraisals. And so Mr. Arroyo said that in the past 20 years, he's had a couple of appraisals with the HR department. Mr. Arroyo stated that he received a 90 on his ranking, and I'm not really sure how the ranking process works, but he said this was one of the highest ranks that the company had seen during an appraisal. And so an appraisal is really just a time for the company to speak to their employees about their traits, their performance, or any other concerns they have. It is a time for recognition and praise, and also just a time to speak about any further training opportunities for the employees. And Mr. Arroyo said that during his appraisals, they spoke of his expectations of the areas of improvement, but also the areas he was excelling in. And appraisals are also have a negative aspect to them. Many times the employees feel under pressure when having an appraisal, and that's just because they're being further evaluated. But then we moved on to training, and as Mr. Arroyo has had various positions in the company, he's gone through various training programs. The two positions we spoke the most about was his foreman position, and in this position he had 3 months of training. He had person-to-person training with the supervisor and a foreman, and this is considered internal training. This is very cheap for the company. It helps develop teamwork. It's convenient for the trainee. And it really allows them a sense of what they're going to be accomplishing in the company. And then Mr. Arroyo also spoke about his current position, which is a technician. And here he said he had more of an external training. He had to take various classes at Delta College. So external training does have some benefits. It allows specialists to train the employees more. It allows more time for concentration and organization. Many times it's more suitable for the employee, and it's a little bit less stressful and distracting than actually training in the plant or company. Yet there's also negatives to this form of training. For example, it is more expensive. The employee cannot be working while he is training, and sometimes there's really no connection between their training outside of the company with the work they will be accomplishing inside of the company. Overall, Mr. Arroyo said that his best form of training was the person-to-person training. He felt he learned the best out of this type of training. The only negatives with internal training is that the company risks that their trainer may not explain well, might not explain well enough the information to the trainee. The trainer might show the trainee his or her bad habits, and it even slows down work as the company has to take a person out of the production line just to train another employee. Again, Mr. Arroyo said he preferred the internal training more. And so that concludes my commentary for my interview with Mr. Arroyo. I do feel that my knowledge, I learned a lot more about the process for recruitment, appraisal,